Welcome back to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into Cody Talks NFL. How are you guys doing? Are you even awake right now to watch this after all that turkey you ate? I know, man, Rob, before we hopped on, and I know both of us had a difficult time getting up to do the show today just because we were so full. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go visit my family this year or even my friend's family like I have the last couple of years. Kind of stuck to myself with the whole pandemic situation going on. But that didn't stop me from getting turkey, some stuffing, cranberry, sweet potato. Even got I didn't unfortunately get a pie, but I did go get myself some chocolate chip cookies to end the day. And I was just in a food coma all night. But now I'm up. I got some coffee in me, got some good conversation in me. So I'm ready to do this show for you guys this week. Again, this week's Cody Talks NFL, it's going to be formatted how it always has been. I'll start with yesterday's Thanksgiving games, kind of run over really quick on how I feel about each team going forward. Normally, I give out my Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia Player of Thursday Night Football. Obviously, we did not get Thursday Night Football for a couple reasons. A, there wasn't a night game, and there's two games. And Ravens game got pushed back, and we'll see what's going to go on with that game. But what I'm going to give out, though, is a player of Thanksgiving. So between both games, I guess you guys can probably have an idea who I'm going to talk about based on some rookie performance yesterday. Really quick, starting with the first game, though, the Houston Texans, they beat the Detroit Lions 41-25. Deshaun Watson is just a special talent, man. Ever since Bill O'Brien, I've been talking about it for, it seems like ever now, the last couple months. Ever since Bill O'Brien left, he's completely balled out and he's starting to reach his ceiling as a quarterback. And I still think he's still got a lot more, not a lot more, but a little bit more development to do. And he can be that complete quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback in this league. And he got a chance to display his talent to a nationwide audience yesterday. The Texans are always going to be a team that can beat you this year, though, with Deshaun Watson's talent and the I want to call him like a superstar talented litter of weapons, but he's still got a litter of talent to spread the ball to between Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Duke Johnson finally came on. I'm just saying that as a fantasy football owner, that part, but he still has some guys around him. But we'll always not help him is that defense. So I think the Texans going forward, there's just going to be that spoiler team that could potentially knock out any team any given week and hurt their playoff chances. As far as the Lions, embarrassment the last 2 weeks have been for them. They got spanked by a PJ Walker-led Panthers team, and then they really didn't even look great at all at any point of the game yesterday, fumbling and turning over the ball multiple times. I think yesterday was the final nail in the coffin that the Lions do need to move on from Matt Patricia. I put it out there as a question on my Twitter. Maybe you guys can give me a response on if you think it happens. Does he even make it to the month of December? Today's November 27th, so we got 3 days left in the month. I would not be surprised if maybe they kind of saved face and didn't fire him on Thanksgiving, but maybe that happens at some point today. But we'll see. Either way, I totally expect that they're going to move on from Matt Patricia going forward. And this Lions team, they give me nothing to believe in. Honestly, you could pretty much, I think, chalk up a win for whoever they're going to face going forward. Moving on.
Hey, I do want to let you know, Cody, you mentioned them playing spoiler. I pulled up the Texans schedule, man. Ooh, 3 division games, 2 of them with your Colts over the last 5 here, the other 2 non-playoff implications. But it feels like the Houston Texans, while not making the playoffs, actually control that division with the 3 out of the 5 games being interdivisional games, man. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and as a Colts fan, obviously I hate that he's in our division and we had to face him multiple times, especially at the end of the year, especially with the tight race with going with Tennessee in these last 4 weeks. But and what's interesting too with the Texans, for people to keep notice, I brought this up on the Football Happy Hour. They traded their first round pick to the Dolphins. At one point, the Dolphins were going to have a top 5 pick and have a good season. Now with them beating the Lions, I believe that actually has pushed that pick outside the top 10. So they're even worsening that pick, that pick for the Dolphins. I mean, it's still a bonus pick for them this year, but still, they at one point they thought they were going to maybe pick in the top 5, top 10, but it's looking more than likely not. Moving on to the next game. The football team beat the Cowboys 41-16. Completely, it was actually a pretty good game, man. Up until the third or fourth quarter, and then the football team completely dominated, like starting mid third quarter for the rest of the game. Their defense was just flying all over the field. Cole Holcomb, man, that guy was flashing to me all afternoon. The linebacker for the football team making tackles. Chase Young is just a stud. You can already tell he's becoming a leader on the team when you see how vocal he is on the sidelines. Alex Smith, I've been giving him crap for being check down Charlie. He still is a check down Charlie, but because he does protect the ball. I mean, something that he's always done. And if he can, manage the game and get that team in scoring position more times than not, they have the defense to be able to win games. So I will give kudos to Jack saying if Alex Smith gets the start, he could lead the Washington football team to winning the NFC East. Now, I still lean towards the Giants because the Giants do have the tiebreaker over the football team. But I mean, if they're going to play defense like that and they can play offense like they did yesterday and have Terry McLaurin and the guy I'm about to talk about have great performances like that every week, yeah, then I like their chances, and we could see where they can go, where they go going forward. But regardless, man, with Ron Rivera and what he dealt with battling cancer, and how quickly seems like he's already is slowly but surely changing the culture in Washington. I'll say this. Alex Smith might be able to get the job done now, but I can't wait till they find whoever their franchise quarterback is, and we'll see what this team is going forward. Touch on the Cowboys really quick. That team just gives no effort. They're a bad team. Ezekiel Elliott's a shell of himself. They don't have an offensive line. Zach Martin went down with an injury yesterday, and then they lost another. I think Cam Irving also left with an injury. So the injuries keep on piling up with that team. Can they maybe beat a team that has a bad defense? Sure, we saw it last week, with the Vikings. Vikings defense still needs a lot of work. But when you face a good team like the football team, 10 defense, they're top 10. I'm not. You can maybe argue about top 5, but when you go against a good defense like that, you're probably going to lose just because you cannot protect the quarterback with your banged up offensive line. And to wrap up the Thanksgiving game, I'm going to give out my Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia Player of Thanksgiving, and that is going to be my man Antonio Gibson, the running back for the football team. He was a guy, if anybody's been following me for a while, I was super high on during this whole draft process. I was telling Rob, you could basically say he was this year's my version of DK Metcalf this year. That's how high I was on him. I wrote up his scouting report. You can go to blitzalytics.com. You can just type in Antonio Gibson Blitzalytics, read my scouting report to know what I wrote about him. But I didn't write about him in the book, so let's talk about that. David Connors did do the football team section. He was a number 6 prospect for Washington. Now, as far as yesterday, sorry, got a little lost there, guys. He had 20 rushes for 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 5 receptions for 21 yards, and he had 136 total yards on the day. He is the first rookie since Randy Moss to have 3 touchdowns on a Thanksgiving Day matchup. Now, I wanted to read. Normally, I read the overview. Now, here I always preview it for those on the video version. This is the Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia. Since he's a top 6 prospect, he gets a strengths, weaknesses, and overview. Normally, I read the overview, but I wanted to read the strength because I thought that we got to see the strength of Antonio Gibson, what David wrote about, show off yesterday. And this is what David wrote in the strength part. A playmaker with a ball in his hands who sets up defenders well to become victims with his to his elusiveness. He's a weapon in the passing game, transitioning from ball catcher to ball carrier effortlessly and becoming an electric presence in the open field. Gibson has the size and sturdiness to run between the tackles and isn't afraid to initiate a contact. So I thought David hit that spot on with his strength when I was reading over his report yesterday. And it does suck for our boy David Connors here at Blitz. For those that don't know, David is actually a Cowboys fan, so he got to see a prospect that he wrote about light his team up. Don't worry, David. We all probably have had that experience that at some point throughout the year. So yeah, Antonio Gibson, completely stud. I'm so impressed where he is right now because I kind of thought he was going to be more of a returner and more of a rotational piece as a rookie, and then he could be a potential Pro Bowl or All Pro by his third year. But he's already extending, and he has so much room to grow.
Let me
Again,
ask you this, man. Could you see him be in the Rookie of the Year conversation if this team makes the playoffs? Because I looked at all three schedules. They've got 3 winnable games. New York and Cowboys have 1 winnable game and a couple coin flips. If Washington gets in, I mean, I know Herbert's been balling out. He's the favorite right now, but he's in the conversation, right? Like, he's all they've got, and they're somehow going to make the playoffs. It's insane what he's done.
no, I think yesterday has definitely put him in that conversation because he has now 10 touchdowns or 10 or 11 touchdowns on the year. I think he has the second most rushing touchdowns, but and that is also because he did play an extra game right now. So we'll have to see where he stands on that. But I definitely think the performance has entered him in the conversation. Like we have talked about, normally it would go to quarterbacks. That's just how it always has been. But you're right. If they make it to the playoffs and say he averages more than 100 total scrimmage yards per game going forward, I definitely think he will be in the conversation, if not winning it. And then here is the blitzlytics.com/shop. If you want to order this, it's only $35, and you can get reports on stars like Antonio Gibson that you would have known about before this game. And that's why you want to stick with Blitz too. Go to blitzlytics.com. You can read these awesome reports. I know we have our scouting season's getting under the way here, and we got some huge plans, and we're going to be dropping scouting reports between now and the next upcoming draft. So stay tuned with us as you can get more reports for these studs like Antonio Gibson that will be coming into the league. I'm gonna keep it moving though. We are going to start with the 1 p.m. games. Miami is traveling out to New York to face the Jets. We have, as far as no news on either team, and there's not much news going forward. For those that maybe remember episodes, once we kind of get past Thanksgiving, teams kind of stay out of the news. And it's more of just injury reports going forward. But as far as Miami's injury report, Salvin Ahmed hasn't practiced with a shoulder, as well as Solomon Kinley with a foot. And then Tua Tagovailoa has been limited with a thumb, as well as Kyle Van Noy with a hip. Looking at the Jets injury report, George Fant hasn't practiced with a knee and ankle, as well as Patrick Onwuasor with a hamstring. And then we have 3 players that have been limited this week for New York. Blake Cashman with his hamstring, Chuma Edoga with the ankle, and Rashad Perryman with the shoulder. And it does sound like we will be seeing the return of Sam Darnold this week. So we'll see if he can maybe give one final showing to Joe Douglas to potentially still be their franchise quarterback going forward. If not impressing Joe Douglas, at least put some good tape on there to maybe help him find a new landing spot in the offseason. And, Miami right now is currently in the playoff hunt, so maybe they can find their first victory out of the year. And head coach, Adam Gase, he can get some revenge on Miami. Really don't see that happening. Let's just dive into it. Yeah, so Sam Darnold will be back. Now, he will get his weapons that he didn't have earlier. So he does have, Denzel Mims. He will have Rashad Perryman, Jamison Crowder. So he will have a full set of passing weapons that he can spread the ball to. So I think maybe we could start seeing a good evaluation possibly out of him now that he has some guys that he can throw to. But he's going against a good test, a good secondary with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. So we'll see if he can protect the ball. And that's always been something that's been an issue for him. But this Miami defense, they're overall solid. I won't call them great quite yet. They're overall solid. They play better than what they are. I think they're going to be able to slow down the pass and potentially get their hands on some turnovers. And the thing with New York, they don't really have a line, and not only they really don't have a line, they don't have a running threat at all. I mean, Lamichael P. Ryan, he's on, I believe, IR right now, and Frank Gore is, as much as I love the dude, he's Frank Gore in December at the age of what, 36. So I don't see them being too successful on the offensive side of ball on Sunday. And then you switch sides of the ball. We this is like a perfect game for Tua to bounce back. I know he's been limited with his thumb injury, but I think the expectation is he will play. So I think this is a perfect chance for him to bounce back going against this Jets defense that offers, no promise outside of a Quinnen Williams. So I think he should be able to spread the ball to Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, and Jakeem Grant. That's the name I was trying to find right there. And then we'll see who's going to be the running back this week. Sullivan Ahmed hasn't practiced. I know Myles Gaskin is potentially set to return from IR. They still got Matt Breida. But yeah, there's some kinks in this offense needs a workout if they want to make the playoffs. And this is a perfect game to maybe find themselves some identity, especially under 2-0. We're still kind of he showed some good compoise. He had a solid test last week, which sent him to the bench. But I think he should be able to have a bounce back performance and get Miami back on track going forward. And as far as the score, Miami should be able to win by 10 points. Maybe it's closer just because it's a divisional game. Maybe it's close because, Adam Gase tries his best to get a revenge. You get that one win this year against his former team. But I think Miami does handle business. They win like a 28-14 type of win on Sunday. Heading into the next matchup, we got Arizona traveling to the Patriots to face traveling to New England to face the Patriots. Hey, don't judge me. I've still got that turkey in me, so my brain might not be working completely right. And I do see a comment. Yeah, Roy is tuned in today. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get into this game. A little note. Larry Fitzgerald, he has tested positive, so that's unfortunate. Hopefully he does remain okay and he could come back sooner than later. But that will cause him to miss this matchup. So the young offense will be missing their veteran leader on Sunday. Let's go through the injury report really quick for Arizona. These three players haven't practiced. Daryl Daniels with an ankle, Josh Moreau with a hamstring, and Jalen Thompson with an ankle. These three players have been limited. Justin Murray with a hand, Kyler Murray with a shoulder, and then Charles Washington with a groin. And if you guys are weekly listeners, you probably already know you got to, buckle up for this New England injury report because every week there's a good, solid 15 names on it. These five players haven't practiced. Deshaun Bauer with an illness, Kyle Duggar with a toe, Matthew Slater with a knee, J.J. Taylor with a quad, and Isaiah Wynn with a knee. And these number of guys have been limited. Jawan Bentley with a groin, Adam Butler with a shoulder, Brian Cowart with a back, Carl Davis with a concussion, Nick Folk with a back, Stephon Gilmore with a hand, Lawrence Guy with a shoulder, elbow, and knee, N'Keal Harry with a shoulder, Ryan Izzo with a hamstring and hand, Shaq Mason with a calf, and Joe Thuney with an ankle. So, as always, the Patriots are going to enter a matchup extremely banged up, and they got a solid test against Kyle Murray, who I'm sure after I wouldn't say his down performance, but his last appearance on Thursday night wasn't as great as I'm sure him and the rest of the team would have hoped it would be. But he is going against, Bill Belichick, the defensive mind. It'll be interesting to see what Bill Belichick has cooked up, how to contain Kyle Murray. I will point out, too, this is a West Coast team traveling to New England, so they will be playing that East Coast team at that 1 p.m. slot time. The reason why I do point this out is, remember, earlier in this year, Arizona was in the same situation. They traveled to Carolina at the 1 p.m. slot time, and Carolina jumped out to a big lead, and they never gave it up. Now, I think things might be a little bit different just because the Patriots have been so up and down. But I wouldn't be surprised if that factor does come in come Sunday if Arizona does get off to a slow start. But as far as the Kyle Murray, he has been limited too this week. So if we remember that primetime game, he was kind of like warming up his shoulder throughout it. So will he be 100%? He'll be missing Larry Fitzgerald, but I still think he has plenty of weapons to move the ball against this New England defense. New England has been suspect for giving up gains on the ground, so I wouldn't be surprised if a combination of Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds have a good game. Of course, Larry will get his own, but he'll be, of course, stuck by Stephon Gilmore. So this will be on like a Christian Kirk. This will be on an Andy Isabella, maybe one of their tight ends. Shout out to Dan Arnold from the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. That his college is located where I graduated high school. It's always a fun fact I think of every time he scores for Arizona. But yeah, I think they're going to be able to move the ball against New England's defense. They're going to find themselves in scoring position more times than not. I think the chess match will come down to what Cliff Kingsbury can get his offense to do inside the red zone, inside the 20 versus a Bill Belichick-led defense. So I think that's where this chess match will be won on Sunday. Switching sides of the ball, Arizona's defense, they're hit and miss. 1 week they can be very solid. Then the next week they're allowing easy chunk plays through the ground and through the air. But they are going against a New England offense that's more run centric, more run oriented with the Cam Newton and Damian Harris experience that we're seeing going on. He still really doesn't have any. I would say consistent passing threats. Jacoby Myers was a good story the last couple of weeks, and he kind of faded away but Damiere Byrd, former Arizona Cardinal, was able to have a big game last week. So we'll see how they're going to plan on attacking this Arizona defense. But I think they should be able to move the ball and put themselves in scoring position. But it's going to be coming down to can they convert those into touchdowns as well? But I think they can. Just because I'm not the biggest believer in Arizona's defense. I do think this game is going to be pretty close. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter. It's going to come down to who has the ball last. Oh, man. I'd have a better feeling if this was in Arizona, but with Arizona in that 1 p.m. slot time, I still don't trust them at that time. I think they're going to come out slow. That allows the Patriots to have a big lead. But I'm going to say Kyler Murray finds a way to lead his team back and either had to score a touchdown to win or they at least get in a field goal position to win. I say they win like a 27-24 type of win for Arizona. Now I'm going to go into the next matchup. We got Carolina traveling to Minnesota. We got a little Teddy Bridgewater revenge game against his former team. Now he gets to come back and face off against them as a franchise quarterback for Carolina. As far as the injury reports, let's go ahead and get into that. Dennis Daly hasn't practiced with a concussion. Dante Jackson with a toe. Christian McCaffrey, he has been limited, but Matt Rule pretty much already said he doesn't expect him to play this week. John Miller has been limited with a knee and ankle. Russell Okung with a calf, and then Sam Franklin with an ankle. And then these two players for Minnesota haven't practiced. Ezra Cleveland with an ankle, Irv Smith Jr. with a groin. And then these two players have been limited. Fede Dogumbo with a shoulder and concussion, and Harrison Smith with a neck. Let's just go ahead and get into the game. With Minnesota, their offense has been steadily producing throughout the year. They haven't really had a fall off moment, even though they did lose to the Cowboys. That was more on their defense, not their offense. And I think that can continue against the Carolina defense that's still going through some growing pains as their rookies and younger players, younger veterans get more playing experience. But they kind of do struggle to stop the run. So I think this is setting up for a big Dalvin Cook day on the ground and through the screen game. I think he's going to have a lot of open lanes that he can rush through. And as long as Kirk Cousins can protect the ball and spread the ball throughout to Justin Jefferson. See, now this is the thing that might hold them back is I forgot to put it on the list, but Adam Thielen was placed on the list earlier this week. So he's one of the players that they haven't said was a tested positive, so maybe he's a close contact, so there might be a slight chance Adam Thielen can play, but I have not heard anything different on it. So this will be on if Justin Jefferson, Kyle Rudolph, because Irv Smith hasn't practiced. So it's going to be on those two guys in the passing game to help out. So maybe Olabisi Johnson can get involved, Chad Beebe can get involved, and then Kirk Cousins can protect the ball. But their offensive line still kind of does need some work. So if Brian Burns can dominate the middle of the defense, the middle of the line, and then maybe they can have a potential to somewhat contain Dalvin Cook and get that pressure on Cousins to force the turnovers. But I think Minnesota is going to find the end zone more times than not on Sunday. And then you switch sides of the ball. Like I mentioned earlier, Teddy's going to be looking to get his revenge on Sunday, and I think he's going to have his opportunity because Minnesota's defense they have played better overall in the past month, but they still have some leaky holes in that defense. I think Robbie Anderson could have a good day. I think DJ Moore is going to have a good day, and then they can even get the ball going on the ground with Mike Davis as well. I think they're going to be able to be in scoring position just like the Minnesota's offense. I honestly think this is going to become a shootout type of game. This might come down to which defense can take the chances to get their hands on the ball to force those turnovers that will determine the outcome of the game. Man, this is a tough one for me to pick because I like both teams. I think they're both a coin flip at this point on who can win. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I know they don't really have true home field advantage, but they are the home team. So I say they find a way to win a shootout, like a 31-27 type of win for Minnesota. And then we're going to head into this next matchup. We got Cleveland traveling down to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. Really quick on the Jaguars, Mike Glennon was named starter this week. That really doesn't do much for me, but that is a news note. He is now the starter. But it will be interesting. I'm sure Gardner Minshew will be placed back in the lineup as soon as he's 100% healthy, but he's been practicing, but he's yet to return to the active roster on game day. But let's go ahead and look into these injury reports on Cleveland. These 5 players haven't practiced. Javonte Moffett with the illness, Sheldrick Redwine with a knee, Andrew Sendejo with a groin, Denzel Ward with a calf, and then Jedrick Wills Jr. with an illness. And these number of players have been limited. Jack Conklin with a knee, Ronnie Harrison Jr. with a knee, Larry Ogunjobi with an ankle, Wyatt Teller with a calf, and J.C. Treader with a knee. And then you look at Jacksonville's side, these 4 players haven't practiced. DJ Chark, Sidney Jones with an Achilles, Andrew Norwell with an arm, and James O'Shaughnessy with a knee. And these number of players have been limited for the Jaguars. Laviska Shenault with a hamstring, Gardner Minshew with a thumb, Chris Conley with a hip, Gerard Wilson with a shoulder, and Dakota Allen with an ankle. This is going to be a quick preview, more than likely, because I just don't believe in the Jaguars. I think I like some of the pieces and the talent on that roster, but I just think they have the wrong coach leading that team. And they just continue to be on the downward trend and might be potentially trying to play themselves into that number 1 pick if the Jets could stumble into a win or two. Starting with Jacksonville, they got Mike Glennon as a starter. Still doesn't do much for me. DJ Chark hasn't practiced this week, so we're going to see if he can even go. But I do like James Robinson. He does impress. I enjoy watching the way he does run the ball. Now he's going to be going against a defense that they play pretty good at times, but they're going to be missing Myles Garrett for a second straight week since he's tested positive. Denzel Ward is expected to miss this matchup, so those are their 2 studs, their 2 cornerstones on that defense. So maybe they can get things going on the ground, but with James Robinson, maybe Mike Glennon could just be a veteran and protect the ball for them. But I don't really see them scoring much points and being really very consistent on Sunday. I think I see them settling for field goals more times than not. Not if they do find themselves in the red zone. And then you switch sides of the ball, man. Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller, their return to that lineup has completely changed that offense back to what we were seeing in the first couple weeks. Like I said it earlier on the football happy hour on Tuesday, nothing brings a smile to my face than when I see Nick Chubb running the ball on right behind Wyatt Taylor when they pull him on a pull play. But yeah, so Nick Chubb is getting the ball going, Kareem Hunt's getting the ball going, and I don't expect that to change against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense, they're down like so many cornerbacks. I think they're at practice squad guys at this point. So I think with it being a nice Florida weather, I think Baker Mayfield's gonna have a nice day through the air, getting the ball to Jarvis Landry, Hollywood Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Austin Hooper and the rest of their tight ends. I think he's going to pick apart that defense on Sunday, and they should be able to win by like 2 touchdowns. This is who we start finding out who the Browns really are. The Browns really don't have a tough schedule, and they have been beaten up by the bad teams. Now, we're going to see if a culture shift of winning is happening or not in Cleveland, because you could argue the old Cleveland loses a game like this. They lose to the Jaguars. They stumble when they're sitting at 7-3 and lose to the Jaguars and go to 7-4, and people are calling them pretenders. Or do they come out and they make a statement touchdowns like they should? I think that's what we need to watch for in this game, and I do think the Browns get that job done. They win like a 31-17 type of win.
Hey, real quick, man, what's your gut on Chark? Does he go? And because fantasy purposes, this is a personal question for me because the Ravens Steelers game threw me off. Got a lot of stock in that canceled game. Almost canceled game, excuse me. I mean, is Chark good to go, and can I trust him? Is the big question.
See, I'm in that same boat because I have him in a money league that I really need to get a win this week as we get towards playoffs. I got to try to clinch a playoff spot. It's a rib injury. I think he ends up playing. Now, as far as trusting him, that's where you're kind of getting iffy because I'm not sure about his chemistry with Mike Glennon. But I will say this. Even whether it was Jake Luton or Gardner Minshew, he was getting 7 or 8 plus targets. So I think it's like they know he's the number one guy. So I don't really expect that to change if he does play. It's just something to watch for the practice report. With Denzel Ward not playing, I think Greedy Williams is still on the IR. So it's not like Cleveland has a solid set of corners. So like as long as he plays, I'm going to leave him in my lineup. I have no problems. As long as he suits up on Sunday, I will play him in fantasy football. And
Gracias, sir.
No problem. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got Tennessee is heading up to Indianapolis to face the Colts. A couple news notes. With the Titans, their stud linebacker, Jayon Brown, he's been placed on IR. For those that don't know, if you are placed on IR, you could potentially return in 3 weeks. But one thing I did note here is they did say his season could potentially. I think that's dependent on if the Titans are able to make it to the playoffs, and if how long they would be in the playoffs, as far as if he could potentially return this year or not for Tennessee. And then a big loss for the Colts defense. DeForest Buckner, he did test positive. So he's been placed on the list. They already have Danico Autry on the list as well. So 2 of their stud defensive linemen will be missing this matchup against the Titans. Trust me, as a Colts fan, that sucks because those guys are what makes that defensive line work. So that's a huge loss for Indy. And then just so anybody knows how it works, if anybody does test positive, and they're asymptomatic, they can return after 10 days if they end up having a string of negative tests. But if they test positive and they do show symptoms, they have to quarantine at least for 14 days. And then after a string of negative tests, they can return after that 14-day mark. So this potentially puts out players for anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on when their games are. But let's go ahead and get into these injury reports. I will start with Tennessee. These 3 players haven't practiced. A.J. Brown with a knee. It's been a maintenance day all year, so I wouldn't worry about that one, fantasy football fans. Dory Jackson with a knee. Dennis Kelly with a knee. And these 4 players have been limited. for Tennessee. Malcolm Butler has been with a rib, Ben Jones with a knee, Roger Saffold with an ankle, and then Adam Humphries with a concussion. And then on the Colts side, some of these names are really big names. So as a fan, I hope they return to practice today. But anyways, these 6 players haven't practiced. Ryan Kelly with a neck, Quentin Nelson with a back and ankle, Bobby Okereke with an ankle, Zach Pascal with a knee and foot, Philip Rivers with a toe, but he did say he could practice if he needed to, and then Kari Willis with a ribs and shoulder. I can already tell you right now, with the loss of DeForest Buckner on the positive list, if Ryan, we got to watch this practice report today, because I think most of these guys will return and not really get an injury designation for the game. But, Ryan Kelly's also out and Quentin Nelson's out. Obviously, Quentin Nelson and Ryan is a huge loss if he's out. Ryan Kelly is too. He is the center. Those two are as a tandem work, just like the tandem of Denico Autry and DeForest Buckner work. So I'll go ahead and say this really quick, diving into this. Let's go ahead and start with the Colts offense. They are kind of finding themselves as we get through the season, finding that type of identity. They kind of got Jonathan Taylor going last game. Last game they played the Titans a couple of weeks ago. Nyheim Hines had a huge game. And I think they should be able to enter this game still with some confidence. I am going to assume Ryan Kelly and Quentin Nelson will play, as that's kind of a hopeful type of thing, of course. But assuming they're in the lineup, I think they should be able to move the ball relatively easy against the Titans. They were able to do that a couple weeks ago. Now they're at home. Now they're on the turf. So I think we're going to see a healthy dose of Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, and they're going to be able to keep on getting Michael Pittman involved, who's emerged for them, as well as the tight ends. I think they're going to be able to still find themselves in scoring position. And then, of course, it's always going to come down with them is, can they convert those red zone trips into touchdowns? They were one of the worst teams throughout the season, but over the past few weeks that they have improved on that mark. So if they can continue on that trend, then I like their chances of putting up some touchdowns throughout the day on Sunday. Now, your reverse sides of the ball, Titans, their offense was out of sync the last time these two teams played 2 weeks ago, but they kind of found themselves on what they always do around this time of the year in that second half against Baltimore, which is run the rock with Derrick Henry. That offensive line kind of fell off after the loss of Taylor Lewan, but it seems like they might have gained some confidence in last week's matchup with Derrick Henry. He's always going to be a tough piece to slow down no matter who is protecting, who is blocking in front of him. And he's going to have an easier task without DeForest Buckner, without Denico Autry. So it's going to be guys like Grover Stewart for the Colts that had to step up. Kamiko Toure will be in his second return to action. Tyquan Lewis has been stepping up. So it's going to be on some younger guys to fill those older veteran roles and stop the ball. But luckily, they still got Darius Leonard. They still got Julian Blackmon, who's put himself in defensive rookie of the year conversation. So they still have pieces to be a good defense without DeForest Buckner. But I do think the Titans are going to find ways to get the ball moving on the ground with the loss of those two guys. So Derrick Henry's going to have a good day. And usually when he has a good day, that's going to open up the play action pass for Ryan Tannehill to get the ball to A.J. Brown. I got a feeling A.J. Brown can eventually go over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's a must-win game for both teams. Obviously, the Colts have the upper hand with a tiebreaker right now, but that's why the Tennessee is going to give their all heading into this matchup, and I totally expect that. This is going to be for the AFC South, I believe, and whoever can win this game will ride that momentum going forward in December to potentially pull away with the division lead. It's a tough one always for me. Everybody knows it's hard for me to pick against my Colts. But I always thought that they were going to split the series, but Colts did get them in Tennessee. I kind of expected them to lose in Tennessee if they were going to split the series. And the Colts got all those injuries. Am I about to pick
No, you're not going to have to, Cody. I'm with you. I think that these DNPs are rest. Because this is the South. This is the division-winning game right here. So they're giving them the day. Get your bruises mended. Come back in here, and we're gonna kick some ass. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there because this is the division. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, and I think the Colts also. I think the offense is going to kind of feel very confident after all that the scoring they did in the second half against the Packers last week. And I think that's gonna. I think the Colts offense will be able to find the end zone more than the Tennessee offense does. I could see the Tennessee offense struggling at times, and they've been struggling with special teams too, as we saw in their previous matchup. Rob's right. I'm not going to pick against my Colts. I'm just saying I would not be surprised if Tennessee wins this game. It's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to a field goal. Colts win like a 31-28
It's
type
going
of
to get
win.
chippy too, bro. This is a must-watch game for me this week. They're going to go at each other's throats.
Oh yeah, I know. I can't. Yeah, I can't wait. But also, it's like, man, that last game about gave me a heart attack. I don't know if my health can handle it for the second week in a row. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into this next game. We got the Giants heading out to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. Man, this would have been I think, a fun game to watch until that sad news of Joe Burrow being done for the season. I don't have to get into that. That's been talked about much throughout the week. We had a whole quarter dedicated to it on the football happy hour. So just jump over to the football happy hour after this show. If you haven't watched that episode yet, to see our feelings on that. But Brandon Allen is expected to start for the Bengals. Let's just dive into the injury reports. Only one player for the Giants, Sterling Shepard, with a hip and toe. And then on the Bengals side, Giovanni Bernard was limited with a concussion, as well as Mike Thomas with a hamstring and Mackenzie Alexander with a hamstring. And I'm going to go ahead, and this is probably a quick one. I mean, I'm sorry, Bengals fans, that happened to you. You have your dude in Joe Burrow, and then once he's off that roster, it's just like, yikes. It's like I don't know what I see, I see the Bengals winning any type of game. Brandon Allen maybe can be that type of game managing quarterback, but you don't have a defense to make up for a game managing quarterback. So I think that Bengals offense is going to struggle throughout the day. Plus, they are going over against a overall solid defense in the Giants. I expect Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence to eat up the middle of that Cincinnati offensive line, and that's going to lead to collapsed pockets, which will lead to potential sacks, and that would lead to potential turnovers. The the Giants secondary, it's very solid. Well, it'll be interesting to see who they stick James Bradbury on. But one thing I'm kind of very interested in, I'm practicing, but I don't think he's activated off IR yet. But their first round, I think he was a first round pick. He didn't fall to the second round, did he? Xavier McKinney. I don't remember exactly where he got drafted this year off the top of my head, but Xavier McKinney, the safety for Alabama, who was my number one safety in this past draft class, he's expected to return, and that's going to give a much generated boost to that secondary. So I think they're just going to really manhandle the Bengals offense.
He was the 36th overall pick, by the way, Cody. 36th.
Okay,
so
he should have been a first. Yeah, he should have been a first round pick. So and then you switch sides of the ball. The Giants offense, they when Daniel Jones protects, I mean, it's kind of a stupid statement, but it's the truth. When he protects the ball, we typically win, and they have a chance to win. And he's been doing a good job about that over the last few weeks. And he's going against a defense that, they have some pieces here and there, but it's not a full unit yet. They're missing some guys that they signed in the offseason. So I think Daniel Jones is going to have an opportunity to pick them apart with Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram throughout the day. And then Wayne Gallman's been running the ball pretty good. So I think they're going to have a good day on the offense, and they're going to find the end zone at least 2 to 3 times. They should be able to get some touchdowns. I do think the Giants handle the business, though. It's going to be like a 24-10 type of win for New York. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into this next matchup. We got the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to the Buffalo Bills. And as far as a news note, this literally came out this morning. Cody Ford, their second-year offensive lineman for the Buffalo Bills, he's done for the year. He suffered a torn meniscus, so he's going to go under surgery and return for the 2021 season. And the only other Bills player that was on the injury report then was John Brown. He has yet to return to practice with an ankle injury, but other than that, the Bills are relatively healthy coming off their bye week. On the Chargers side, these 4 players haven't practiced. Brian Bulaga with a knee, Casey Hayward with a groin, Melvin Ingram with a knee, Uchenna Owosu with a shoulder and chest, and then Kalen Ballage has been limited with an ankle and calf. And then there's also a potential of Austin Eckler returning if he does get activated off the IR. And as far as this matchup, though, let's start with the Bills. I think the Bills, they're going to be looking to get back on track and take control of that division lead over Miami. I think the offense is going to come out firing right away, even if John Brown doesn't have to play. The Chargers defense, they're still solid, but I mean, if Melvin Ingram can't play, if Uchenna Nwosu can't play, that hurts their defensive front and their ability to get after the quarterback. And then if Casey Hayward's out, he's their best cornerback. So then you're talking about Stephon Diggs is going to have a day, as well as Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, players like that. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball pretty easy against this Chargers defense. And I think we're setting up for a good Josh Allen type of performance. Then you go to the opposite side of the ball. Justin Herbert's having one heck of a rookie year. He's going against a defense that is suspect this year. They have played better, somewhat better, but they're still giving up big plays. So I think Keenan Allen could have a good day. Mike Williams, if they can get the ground game going with Austin Eckler, if he does return, or even if it is Kalen Ballage, then that's going to have their chances. This could be a potential shootout if Justin Herbert can protect the ball and convert those drives at the beginning of the game into touchdowns. But, if this is also, let's go ahead and point out to this too, this is a West Coast team traveling out to the East Coast to play the 1 p.m. slot time. But the thing that's different in this game, if we remember, the Chargers played the Bucks at this 1 p.m. slot time. Now they did not beat the Bucks, but they end up jumping out to that big lead in the first half. So they had proven that they can at least start off a game well, but they did end that game pretty slowly. So they did end up having no consistency in that matchup. So does that show up in this one? I could definitely see them starting off slow in this matchup and the Bills getting out to a big lead and the Chargers playing catch-up ball for most of the game. I have a feeling we could see a firework of points, though, between both teams just because of Herbert's ability to push the ball down the field and make any explosive play on any given moment, and the Bills' defense being that type of defense that allows those type of plays. So I still think the Bills are going to come out and get a solid win, though. I think they should be able to win by a touchdown. I say they win like a 31-24 type of win for Buffalo. And then we got a Las Vegas Raiders coming off that loss, that barely lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Richie Incognito is done for the season. He had foot surgery this week. So he's done for the year, but they've done a pretty good job filling in with him and keeping that line intact. So I don't see that being a major drop off for them. And then let's go ahead and head into these injury reports. I'll start off with the Raiders since I'm there. Eric Harris hasn't practiced with a calf. Meek Robinson with an illness, and these 4 players have been limited. Alec Ingold with ribs, Sam Young with a knee, Jalen Richard with a chest, and then Josh Jacobs has been limited with a hip injury. And these number of players have been injured for the Falcons. There's 3 that haven't practiced. Todd Gurley with a knee. That's something to take notice. Quadre Allison with an illness. Hayden Hurst with an ankle. And these number of players have been limited. Calvin Ridley with a foot. Michael Walker with a hamstring. Edmund Robinson with a hamstring. Foy Olakon with a knee, Dante Fowler with a hamstring, James Carpenter with a groin, Grady Jarrett with a knee and groin, and then Julio Jones with a hamstring. As far as this matchup, this is also, you could argue the West Coast team is traveling out to a East Coast team at the 1 p.m. slot time. So does Las Vegas have a slow start? I don't think so. I think John Gruden will have his unit ready to go, especially coming off that close loss to Kansas City. They're sitting at a 6-4 record, so they understand with all these teams, with all these good records in the AFC, they have to keep up with it. But this could potentially set up for your classic trap game coming off a big loss, and maybe they started off slow, being the 1 p.m. slot time, and Atlanta's offense is finding ways to move the ball. But who's Atlanta's offense going to move the ball with? I thought Todd Gurley could have potentially a great week, as I talked about on the fantasy voyage, but he hasn't practiced, and if he can't go with that knee injury, that hurts their offense. Hayden Hurst hasn't practiced this week, and then Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are pretty banged up. So I do wonder where Atlanta's offense can find any type of consistency if any of those players have to miss. But if those players do even play, they're one ticky-tack injury away from heading out of the matchup for the rest of the game. So with that being said, though, I think they'll have enough pieces to move the ball at times against this Raiders defense, because the Raiders defense still has some work they need to do. But I think I could see them stalling more times than not. I could see them settling for field goals more times than not than touchdowns. Then you reverse sides of the ball, the Raiders offense, they're playing really great right now. They're giving Carr time to throw the ball. He's delivering not only on short and intermediate, passes. I'll have to admit, he is connecting on some deep balls at times, especially with, Nelson Aguilar's resurgence as at the wide receiver position. But, this could come down to too, like what if what's going on with Josh Jacobs? All of a sudden he's limited with his hip injury. So if he's less than 100%, are they going to have to lean on Devontae Booker in this game? But I really don't trust Atlanta's defense. It doesn't matter really who is at the running back position. I think they'll be able to run the ball against that defense, and that's going to lead to those play action plays. And this is a game indoors. This is like, for me, kind of sets up for a big Henry Ruggs performance. I could see him taking off the top of this defense maybe 2 times in this game. I think the Raiders are going to find the end zone more times than not. I think that's going to be the difference, is maybe Atlanta's offense can move the ball, but they're going to settle for field goals, while the Raiders offense is going to be able to move the ball, and they're going to settle for touchdowns. I'm not settle for touchdowns, convert them into touchdowns. So I think the Raiders do win this game. I think the Raiders do win this game, and I think they let's see. I think they should be able to win by a touchdown. They win like a 28-21 type of win. And then this next matchup, I wasn't sure what I was going to do about this one. Baltimore against Pittsburgh. It's currently scheduled for 1:15 p.m. On Sunday, but as we all probably know, Lamar Jackson tested positive in their latest batch of tests. And then there's like 4 guys that tested positive. So this matchup is very in question right now. There probably will be something that comes out about it today. Basically, all signs last night pointed to that this game probably won't be able to happen on Sunday. Will they be able to possibly move it to Monday or Tuesday? That is possible, but you also got to consider, as of right now, Baltimore is also scheduled to face the Dallas Cowboys next Thursday. So how does that affect next week's schedule as well? And are we going to see maybe Week 18 emerge? I guess, of course, Steelers fans were posting it all last week. I guess, with the new protocol rules, there's a chance they would forfeit this game. But if they forfeit, none of the players get paid. So I know none of the players want that. So it's hard for me to predict this game. I'll just go ahead and say this really quick. If this game does get played this week, regardless, they're going to be without Lamar Jackson. And yes, Lamar Jackson has been playing down, but even with Lamar Jackson still improves your chances of winning this game, even with his down year. But I'll go ahead and say this: if this game is played, the Steelers win this game. That's all I'll say. And did you have a question, Rob?
No, I'm going to save it for the Rob's question of the week, because I got some. Okay. It's an opinion based question, but we'll save it. Just a little teaser there. It is going to be about this situation, though. So, keep
I saw your little note. Yeah, and I wasn't sure how I didn't even dive into the reports. If people want to know, as far as injury reports, really quick. On the Baltimore side, these guys that were limited: Mark Andrews with a thigh, Matthew Judon with an ankle, and Tyree Phillips with an ankle. And then on the Steelers side, Trey Edmonds with a hamstring, Jalen Samuels with a quadriceps, and then had those two guys in practice. And then Joe Hayden's been limited with a knee. Again, I'm not going to really go deep dive into this. There's a very good chance that this game either gets postponed, gets canceled completely, and they forfeit the loss on the Ravens. I'm hoping they find a way to play. I mean, there's a reason why we have all these extra practice squad guys. There's a reason why we see guys like PJ Walker come in and play. There's plenty of talent out there. Listen, if you can't follow the protocol rules, maybe you have to. It's on you to get a roster together to play this game. But again, it's all about the safety of these players. So they're trying to contain spreading the disease on that team. So I get it. But it's hard for me to predict on what would happen. But I do know this: if Lamar Jackson ain't on the field, I do not like their chances at all. So I'm taking the Steelers in a win, and they should honestly win by 10 plus points if this game does get played. So let's just go ahead and keep it moving. By the way, I know. Let me say this too. Another thing that makes me mad if this game does get played on Sunday is like, why is the game at 1:15? Like, there's only 4 p.m. games. Why not just move it to the 4 p.m. game? Like, I know AB or NBC has the rights to it, and maybe that's why they don't want to like mess up the flow into their pregame show. But come on, man, work with us here. Yeah, so let me go ahead and get into these 4 p.m. games. We got San Francisco heading out to the Los Angeles Rams. And one news note on the 49ers about Quan Williams. I'm just going to read this really quick. It was one day after it was announced that Quan Williams had been suspended for 2 games for violation of the NFL policy on performance enhancing substances. That suspension has been rescinded. Williams had been caught off guard by this suspension, and further investigation revealed a problem with testing procedures, which led to the league overturning the suspension Wednesday afternoon. It's so funny because when that news got dropped yesterday about his suspension being rescinded, I didn't even know that it was announced that he was suspended. I was like, when did that even come out? But yeah, so a little drama unfolding for Quan Williams, but he is good to go after a potential suspension. Also on the Rams, they did place Micah Kaiser on IR. No announcement or anything about him being done for the season, so we could potentially see him back in 3 weeks. Let's go ahead and get in the injury reports, though. I'll start with San Francisco. These 4 players haven't practiced: Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles with a hamstring, Aziz Al-Shahir with an illness, Dre Greenlaw with the illness, Jordan Reed with the illness. These 2 players have been limited. Tevin Coleman with a knee, and then Deebo Samuel with a hamstring. And on the Rams side, Tyler Higbee hasn't practiced with an elbow, and Terrell Lewis with a knee. And then Brian Allen has been limited with a knee. As far as the Rams, I'm sure they're going to be entering this matchup with their heads held high. You know, after beating the Bucs on a Monday night game, they've proven themselves as one of the top teams in the NFC, and they're going to have a lot of confidence. I think their offense is going to continue to move the ball against this 49ers defense. 49ers defense, they got pieces, but they're still missing a lot of guys. So I think the ground game will be effective at times. But it seems like a game that Cooper Kupp's going to have a solid day. Bobby Trees is going to have a good day. Josh Reynolds is going to have a good day. Even maybe my boy Van Jefferson gets involved as well too. I think the Rams are going to find that end zone more times than not. I don't see them really settling for field goals against this defense. Now, your reverse sides of the ball, the thing is too, these 2 teams always seem to play each other tough. It doesn't matter what the records are. I totally expect Kyle Shanahan. He'll probably have some type of game-opening drive touchdown script, and the 49ers will score on their first drive. But what has always been the case with the 49ers this year is when Nick Mullins has been at quarterback is they can get that opening drive touchdown, but how consistent will the offense be going throughout the game? I think that Rams defense has so much confidence right now. I think Aaron Donald's going to have a good day. People have been talking about he hasn't had the stats the last couple weeks. He's hearing that chatter. I think he's going to blow up the middle of that line and get his hands on Nick Mullins. Jalen Ramsey having a defensive player type of year. Darius Williams across from him is having a solid year in his third season. So I think those guys are going to play lockdown against Ayuk, maybe Samuel if he plays. And I think they're going to make that offense stall and settle for field goals more times than not. I think this is the Rams game to win. Never doubt Kyle Shanahan. I'll say that. I think this will be a closer game because it's an NFC West divisional matchup. I just think the Rams find a way to pull away with a win at the end. They win like a 28-24 type of win on Sunday. And then I'm going to move into this next matchup. We got the Saints traveling out to Denver to face the Broncos. As far as injuries on the Saints side, Deontay Harris hasn't practiced with a neck. These three players have been limited for the Saints. Alvin Kamara with a foot, Michael Thomas with an ankle, and then Ty Montgomery with a hamstring. And then going to the Denver side, Trey Marshall hasn't practiced with a shin, and then Jerry Jeudy hasn't practiced this week with an ankle and Achilles injury. And then these number of players have been limited for Denver. Bryce Callahan with a foot, DeMar Dotson with a calf and hand, Graham Glasgow with a calf, Joe Jones with a calf, and Sylvester Williams with an elbow, as well as Malik Reed with an ankle. Starting with the Denver offense, they seem to got somewhat back on track with the running game last week. Drew Lock played a lot better than what he did in the previous weeks last week. But they are going against a very tough Saints defense. The Saints defense hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in like 55 or so straight games. So I don't think that's going to change. I think they're going to bottle up Melvin Gordon. I think they're going to bottle up Phillip Lindsay, and they're going to force Drew Lock to beat them. And, Drew Lock was one of those quarterbacks where he gets streaky in either a good way or a bad way. So if he can't find the holes, if he's missing Jerry Jeudy as well, who hasn't practiced this week, I don't really like their chances of moving that ball consistently at all against the Saints defense. And I think the Saints defense is going to bottle up the run game, get pressure on Drew Lock, and force him into sacks and turnovers. And you switch sides of the ball. The Taysom Hill experience got off to a solid start. But they are going against a bad Falcons defense in a dome. I think we're going to see what this team is going to be potentially made out of. I won't say that because the Denver defense has been down because of they've been rattled by so many injuries. But this is a game in Denver, so they're going to want to be playing in that mile-high altitude. It's an outdoor game. I don't have the weather report in front of me, but maybe they're dealing with snow or some type of winter weather, whether it's cold, whether it's, that frizzle drop or whether it's icy outside. Who knows? So how effective is his passing going to be when he is outdoors? Because we saw that deep ball to Emmanuel Sanders, which was basically a punt. But like I was talking, I think I want to say the Fantasy Voyage with Rob about Taysom Hill to me seems like the Tim Tebow of this era when he took the Denver Broncos to the playoffs. Like the Saints defense is playing that good. I mean, I won't say they're playing that Denver Broncos defense good, but they're playing pretty good where they can help them win games. So, as long as Taysom just protects the ball and he can use his rushing ability, he's got a better arm than Tebow to keep the passing game alive and at least make them respect a potential ball 20 plus yards down the field, unlike Tebow. So I feel like he's got enough to put this team in scoring position to get the field goals, to get the touchdowns. Again, I want to see this more. First of all, this is his first test outdoors and what he can do. And then I do want to see him against a pretty solid, at least a solid defense at this point. But I do think the Saints are going to find a way to score touchdowns, and they're going to win this game. They should be able to win by at least a touchdown. They win they should honestly be able to win by 10 plus points, in my opinion. They won like a 28-20 type of win on Sunday. Now we're heading into this last matchup of the 4 p.m. games. We got Tom Brady against Patrick Mahomes. It is a day game, so maybe we actually get the good Tom Brady, not the old past my bedtime Tom Brady like he's been in these primetime games this year. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into this. Chiefs are healthy. all players fully practice. So they're healthy entering a matchup against a Bucks team that came off a rough loss against the Rams, who's also kind of banged up. Jamel Dean hasn't practiced this week with a concussion. AQ Shipley, not only he hasn't practiced with a neck injury, but Bruce Arians said it might be a career-ending injury, which does suck for him. AQ is a former Colt. He goes on one of my favorite podcast shows, the Pat McAfee Show, all the time. So he's a good guy. It sucks to hear that his career might be over. And then Donovan Smith, he hasn't practiced with an ankle injury, so they might be missing their left tackle. And then Jason Pierre-Paul has been limited with a knee injury. But one thing that they do have going for them as far as the Bucks, since AQ's probably done, is it looks like Ali Marpet will be returning, so they can slide Ryan Jensen back to center. But I think it's Josh Wells filled in for Donovan Smith. So if he can't go, we'll have to see if Josh Wells can protect Brady's blind side. Starting with the Bucks offense, man, like, where's the consistency at? 1 week they look like they're unstoppable, then the next week they look like they can't do anything. And it's going to come down to what Brady has always needed. I've said this earlier in the season. They need a run game. When this team gets Ronald Jones going, I'm not even going to bring up Leonard Fournette's game. He had one good game, and that was against the Panthers earlier this year. But when Ronald Jones is getting the ball and they rush over 100 yards, I think he's had not four straight, but I think he has 4 or 5 100-yard games. And anytime he's rushed, they win the game. So, yes, you got Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, but Brady has always been the quarterback that needs a type of running game. So that allows things to open up for him in the passing attack. So they need to figure out a way to run the ball against the Kansas City offense. And if they can, I really like their chances to potentially pull off this upset. But if they can't get no type of resemblance and they're just forced to sit back and throw up to 40 times a game, Honey Badger, he's that type of player where he's gonna catch Brady slipping and he's gonna get his hands on the ball. But I think they got enough, man, to move the ball against KC defense. KC defense, they're solid, but they're not great. They got Frank Clark and Chris Jones up front, Tyrann Mathieu, like I talked about, but there's still some holes in that defense that this Bucks offense, if they can get everything flowing, they can score on any given moment against this defense. And I think that can happen. One thing about these Bucks, though, and it's always been in Brady's career too, and it's been the case with the Bucks this year, is when they do lose, they usually come out swinging the next game. So I expect that's going to happen, at least from the offensive side of the ball. Now, where this game could be won for Tampa is going to be by their defense. And if they can get some consistent pressure and bottle up Patrick Mahomes. Where's Shaq Barrett at? He hasn't really done anything in the last few weeks. JPP has been seems like he's been one of their best defensive players this year. And Ndamukong Suh has been solid. So can those three guys just completely demolish the Kansas City offensive line and not only create the pressure, but also you got to keep Patrick Mahomes. When you disrupt this pocket, you cannot allow him to get outside the pocket, because not only he can extend the play with his legs, he can rush for a first down, and he can just take the top off the defense on the go, on the fly. He doesn't have to reset his feet at all. So the key for my opinion, is you got to you got to have Ndamukong Suh blow up the inside of the pocket, have Shaq Barrett and JPP collapse on the outside in and not let him get outside and force him to throw the ball fast or force those potential sacks. But that's where the game could be won. And then, who do they spy him with? Does Devin White maybe spy on Patrick Mahomes for his potential rushing ability, or that he can go up and fly up the field and sack him on any given moment? And how does Levante David do in coverage as well? And who do they stick on with Travis Kelce? Because if they can maybe eliminate Travis Kelce, bracket coverage Tyreek Hill, of course, you never want to dare Patrick Mahomes to beat you, but dare him to beat you with his other weapons. Maybe there's a slight chance. Can this defense come out swinging like they did against Aaron Rodgers 2 months ago? It's Patrick Mahomes. He's going to find ways to pick them apart at times. He's going to find ways to get into the end zone and get those scoring plays. I do feel like, though, I feel like this is going to be a shootout. I do feel like this is gonna because there's one thing that people learn is you can score against this Kansas City defense like we saw with the Las Vegas Raiders. So and this Las Vegas, the Raiders and the Bucks, when you kind of compare them, I won't say that they're not similar, but they're similar in terms of they can get the running game going. They could score against this Chiefs defense. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last, but you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes because he could have the ball last for the last 30 seconds and find a way to score. I think it's going to come down to, though, it's a coin flip type of a matchup to me, but I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes barely beating the Bucks like a 30. I'll give him a 35-31 type of win. And I'm going to head into the Sunday night matchup. We got the Chicago Bears heading out to Green Bay to face the Packers. As far as injury report, let's start with the Bears. These two players haven't practiced. Nick Foles with a hip. It does sound like Mitch Trubisky is trending towards being their starter on Sunday night. This will be a big loss for them, though. Akeem Hicks, he hasn't practiced with a hamstring, as well as Charles Leno Jr. with a toe. Now, the thing is, with the Packers, though, they are extremely banged up heading into this matchup. These three players haven't practiced. Devontae Adams with a hamstring, Josh Jackson with a concussion, and then Mercedes Lewis with a knee. And then these number of players have been limited for Green Bay. We do got Jair Alexander with a knee and hand, Tyler Irvin with a wrist and ribs, Kader Holman with a quadricep, Alan Lazard with a core, Corey Lindsey with a back, Lucas Patrick with a toe, Will Redmond with a shoulder and elbow, J.K. Scott with a back and quadricep, Economius St. Brown with a knee, Shannon Sullivan with ribs, Robert Tonyan with an ankle, Marquez Valdez-Scantling with an Achilles, and then Kevin King with an Achilles. So Packers are extremely banged up heading into this matchup, but luckily they're going against a relatively easy team to play right now. Starting with the Packers, even if I expect Devontae to play, it might be like last week where he missed the Thursday, then he returned to the Friday practice, then played against the Colts. It'll probably be the same. He'll probably return to practice today and be in the lineup against the Bears. So obviously, as long as Aaron Rodgers has Devontae, he's going to be able to pick them apart. It doesn't really matter who his other passing options are. They're just fill-in guys at that point that he'll drop them a perfect pass to, and all they got to do is get their hands on the ball. And I think the biggest thing, though, is Akeem Hicks. If he's out of that Bears lineup, we saw it 2 weeks ago when he left the game against the Vikings. As soon as he left, Dalvin Cook started eating them alive on the ground game. So if Akeem Hicks is out, I expect Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams to eat them alive on the ground game. And then if they can eat them alive on the ground game, that leads to even better passing options on the play action for Aaron Rodgers. And they're going to find a way to score the ball and move the ball against that Chicago defense. That defense is kind of falling apart, but that tends to happen when you have no production on the offensive side of the ball. The offense can't get anything going. There's nothing for me to believe in. They will get David Montgomery back, but I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. We're going to see, like I said, we're more than likely going to see Mitch Trubisky. So can Mitch Trubisky bounce back, and maybe does the benching save his career? I don't think it's going to happen, but we've seen things like that happen in the NFL before, but I think he's going to struggle, and that's going to lead to turnovers. That's going to lead to sacks, and I just have nothing to believe in the Chicago offense. I'm sorry. Until I see it on the field, there's nothing promising about it. So I think, honestly, the Green Bay Packers, it's a divisional matchup, so maybe they play them tough. But I think at some point the Packers find a way to win in the fourth quarter, and they pull away to win. But I'll give them a touchdown win. They win like a 28-21 type of win for Green Bay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and head into the Monday night matchup. We got Seattle traveling out to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. Let's start with the Seahawks injury report. These number of players haven't practiced. Kyle Fuller with an ankle, Travis Homer with a wrist, thumb, and knee, DJ Reed with a foot, Brandon Shell with an ankle, and Jordan Simmons with a calf. And then these number of players have been limited for Seattle. Dwayne Brown with a knee, Chris Carson with a foot, Shaquille Griffin with a hamstring, Mike Ayupati with a back and hip, and then Damian Lewis with a hip and knee. And then going to Philadelphia's report, these two players haven't practiced, Rudy Ford with a hamstring and Lane Johnson with an ankle. And then these number of players have been limited for Philadelphia: Derek Barnett with a knee, Jack Driscoll with a knee, Jason Kelsey with an elbow, Boston Scott with an abdomen, and Alex Singleton with an ankle. As far as this game, starting with the Philadelphia offense, I mean, what is going on, Carson Wentz? I used to be the biggest believer in you, but it seems like every time I watch the game, he's always making some disappointing throw, and it turns into an interception. Tries to play hero ball too much, but maybe this offense as a whole can get on back on track against the Seattle defense. Now, the Seattle defense did play a lot better last time we saw them against the Cardinals. But you never know. They could fall back right into what they were earlier in the year. This does seem like it would be like right when everybody counts out the Eagles, they all go on a primetime matchup. Carson Wentz improves, and people talk about like, oh, are they back? But I don't see that happening. I think the offense is going to struggle at times, because their offensive line is super banged up. So that allows, a lesser, I wouldn't call them talented, but that allows like a Carlos Dunn in the lap, a LJ Collier, Snacks Harrison, for them to have a easier night on Monday, to have a good performance. They still got Bobby Wagner as well, so I'm sure he's going to fly over the field, make plays on Miles Sanders, who might need to be the reason. If they can get the ground game going with Miles Sanders, maybe he might be the reason why Philadelphia can pull off this win. But man, they're just like the Bears offense. This Eagles offense gives me nothing to believe on based on what I've seen from throughout the year. And when we get to this point of the season, you kind of are what you are. It's hard to flip the script, but we have seen it happen in the past. So maybe the Eagles can get things going, but don't see it happening. Moving sides of the ball, though, Russell Wilson, he got back on track against the Arizona defense, and I think that's going to continue against this Philadelphia defense. Last time when these two teams faced off in the playoffs last year, DK Metcalf had that, I think a rookie record type of performance against Philadelphia, and I think he's going to have a big game, as well as Tyler Lockett. I think they're going to get Chris Carson back in this matchup too, so they'll have the combination of Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde. That's going to help out Russell Wilson in this offense, and they're going to move the ball throughout the night. I really don't care if Mike Iupati and Damian Lewis are banged up. They're going to find ways to move the ball against this Philadelphia defense. And I trust them to find the end zone more than I do trust the Philadelphia Eagles offense to find the end zone. So I do think Seattle does get out a win, maybe because it's the Seattle Seahawks and they can never win an easy game. It's going to be close. So I say they win like a 28-24 type of win. And that's basically the episode. Rob, you said you have a question for me?
Yeah, I want to go back to the Ravens-Steelers game. And again, I precursor this to all listeners. This is going to be opinion. We don't know any facts. But I'm curious, what do you think we see first? Could we see our first actual forfeit or the nuclear option of Week 18? And the only reason I really stress it is because it happens to be the Steelers are in first place in the AFC, and adding Week 18 feels like it essentially washes away that extra advantage of being the one team with a bye week in the playoffs. Does that have any kind of play in what you think the NFL does? Because like you said, Ravens going Thursday too, so it's like rock and hard place here. They hit the worst, all-around scripting for this option right now.
Yeah, man, as far as... See, another thing you have to consider too is, if any games were to get canceled, they would also shift to a 16-team playoff. And guess what? If they shift to a 16-team playoff, guess who's the eighth seed in the AFC right now? It's Baltimore.
Right.
So, that also, they can't even if you do that, that somewhat benefits Baltimore.
Right, so even by forfeiting, they increase their odds at a playoff. It's insane how this worked out to come to 1 point here with this one game.
Yeah, so, it would be the easiest thing to do. And I know people don't want to see this, and it also hurts your player incentives as well, as far as their performance. But, with them breaking protocol and basically starting all this, it would make just sense if, like, maybe the Ravens players, they don't get paid, but if the Steelers ownership, the Roonies, are like, yeah, we'll pay our players, and they just forfeit, they give the Steelers the win, and the Ravens yell, and we just keep this fucking thing. Oh, sorry for swearing, but we just keep this thing rolling, and then you just push back that Thursday game to Sunday, and we just deal with not having a Thursday game. If I had to not deal with a Thursday game, just so this thing can get right back on track, because they've done such a great job at doing the contact tracing, getting people in and out of the rosters, for this one thing to mess everything up at this point of the year when there's only, 6 weeks left.
Yeah.
Man, as far as what I think they'll do, I think they're going to do their best, even if they have to have this game played on Tuesday and cancel the Thursday game to make it happen. But that still hurts the Steelers, because then they got to play on a Tuesday, then return on a Sunday when they did nothing wrong again. I get why the Steelers organization and fans are very upset over it. I think we're going to see an attempt to play it this week. I just don't know if it's going to be on Sunday. I think that's what we're going to see what happens. And I'm sure we're going to get an answer at some point.
It's got to be answered today. And I'll tell you what, you think the Titans caught some fines. Wait till this comes down. Because when you're talking about, like, when the Titans did it, it was an inconvenience, right? But you still had bye weeks left. You could do stuff. This Ravens one is throwing a wrench into everything that they've done to get to this point. I think you're going to see some insane punishments come down on the Ravens. So.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And then other than that, guys, I want to go ahead and wrap up this episode. I do want to thank anybody that did tune in live. I do want to thank anybody that even listens to this at a later time, whether it's on YouTube or the audio version on the Blitzlytics Podcast Network. If you did like the episode, make sure you do hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to Blitzlytics, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Not only our YouTube channel, but the Blitzlytics Podcast Network. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, you name it. Just Google us and you'll find us on any major streaming platform. And you can get all of our audio versions of our shows. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and head out. Hope you guys did enjoy your Thanksgiving yesterday. I hope we get to enjoy every game this week, including the one we just talked about. And you guys will see me next Tuesday at 9 p.m. for the football happy hour. I'll see you guys then, and enjoy your weekend. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.